Good afternoon, everybody. Like Brooke said, I'm Skyler. I'm with the Interfaith Council, and I wanted to tell you a little bit of a story. When I was an undergrad in a local university here, I was studying to be a pre-law student, and I thought it was great. I thought basically happiness was something that looks like Law and Order with a Mercedes, and I thought that that was so cool. So I was studying very hard for that. And I left the library one night after studying, and just off of campus, something caught my eye. There was a kerfuffle. And I watched a student get assaulted because of his religion. It's the longest 15 minutes of my life when we were waiting for the ambulance to arrive. The student, who was obviously Muslim, said over and over again, "They told me to go home. Where do they want me to go? I'm from Bellevue." Over and over and over again. And in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, like, first off, this is ridiculous. And my next thought was, I should do something, or someone should do something about this. And a still small voice said, yeah, you should. So after the course of a few months, I switched my major to anthropology and philosophy, much to my parents' chagrin. My mom said at the very least I might be the most interesting Uber driver, which is pretty cool. Which is great, right? But then, fast forwarding a little bit later, I was coming back from an internship at the Pluralism Project at Harvard, which was life-changing for me. And a friend of mine, because now I was kind of known as the religious nut in my circles, asked me, "Skyler, I have just converted to Islam, and I'm going to be married, and I want to be married in my local mosque. Do you have any advice for people who don't know how to visit, and any resources?" And I'm like, well, sure. So I sent a couple links by email, and in about a week, I got an email back, and I was CC'd on, and it was probably as long as my arm in 10-point font. "Thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt not do that. You better not do this. Make sure your hair is covered this way. And if it's covered in another way, it's not correct." It was so intimidating that when I did attend the services, there weren't a lot of people there. And part of the reason why was because people were afraid. They didn't want to accidentally offend their host. It's quintessential Spokane, right? We all love our neighbor, but we're worried about inadvertently offending them. So I thought, gosh, there's got to be a way. Someone should come up with something. Instead of reading 15 textbooks or a Karen Armstrong book on how to visit these other houses of worship in our area, there's got to be a way we could put this on the, like check it out on YouTube or something. And there's that small, still voice again. Yeah, you should. So I worked with a couple community partners, and we went around to different historical societies, and we worked to try to find historical evidence of different religious minorities in Spokane. And as fate would have it, we are very, very religiously diverse, and we have been from the very beginning. And it was so great to actually highlight that, as well as show people how to visit your local synagogue, how to visit the Sikh Gurdwara. So we put this out, the first time it's ever been done in the world. Out of the billions and billions of videos out on YouTube, not one shows you how to do this, especially one with a Spokane flair. So you can go online right now. If you type in on your phone, on your computer, "Meet the Neighbors Spokane," you can watch on exactly how to visit our local houses of worship and get a little bit of history, which is really great. Would you know that some of the first pioneers were Jewish? And it was these pioneers that bankrolled the city getting back on its feet after the Great Fire. Sikhs have been farming on our Palouse for over 100 years. We found these amazing pictures of Sikhs in overalls and turbans, been here for generations. That is amazing. And why is this important? It's important because if we're going to be really building community, we need to know our neighbors, right? We've always said that. Our great spiritual texts tell us these things. It's important to do that. And that's what we're trying to do with the Interfaith Council of Spokane. We found that people, again, are so excited to visit other places and know their neighbors. But there's things that are holding them back. Media. I mean, I don't think I need to say anything more. In the last 18 months, we've had a swastika drawn on our synagogue. Last summer, during Ramadan, we've had "Death to Islam" scrawled on a prayer space with women and children inside. Our Sikh temple was just desecrated last week, or a few weeks ago. This is not the Spokane I know. This is not the Spokane I think any of us know. So how are we going to fix this? Why is this project important? Well, it's important because we're not going to be able to solve any of our problems alone. We can't do that. The Archbishop Desmond Tutu tells us that my humanity is bound up in your humanity. The only way that I can be fully human is with you. So I think a really great spot to start when it comes to building the community that we deserve in Spokane, that we've been for generations, is to meet your neighbors. And this is something that's not new. And that's why it's kind of funny that this is, titled A Burst of Brilliance, because I'm not saying anything new. I'm not saying anything that we all don't know. Our great spiritual traditions tell us to love one another, to treat our neighbor as ourselves. The best way of doing that is to recognize them as human and indispensable to the building of our city, and recognize that they've been here, a part of Spokane's history, and will continue to be a part of Spokane's future. This video series is amazing. We've had over, I think about 1,000 people come out after watching the videos and come to our open houses. We've had tens of thousands of hits around the country watching our videos. I was just in DC last week. Members of the White House were saying, "We've seen your videos. This is great." And when Governor Inslee came by last week, I got to shake his hand at the Sikh temple, and he said, "I watched your video. Thank you so much, because I didn't know how to visit our local Sikh temple." This is making a huge, lasting impact. I think it's so important that if we are going to be building some of these bridges that are desperately needed in our town, we're going to have to go and visit, right? That's how it's done. And it's so funny because when I think about why do I do this, why is that still small voice driving me and telling me to keep doing this? And I have to think back to what's really important, right? What am I called to do as someone of faith? Actually, better yet, what are we all called to do? Either as people of faith or non-faith, but as Americans, because that's truly what we're trying to do here. I think sometimes it's easy to forget to have an argument, or I think we're afraid of having disagreements, but we can still build Spokane. A great starter is reminding people that we all chose this place to raise our families, to live and be a part of this community. We chose Spokane. We can all bond over the fact that we love Manitou. We can all bond over the fact that we all don't like potholes. We can all talk about how amazing Bloomsday is. These are things that we can connect with, and you don't have to be sitting in a specific place in Spokane on Sunday to agree. It's something across the board. I'll finish up really quick with just a small story that when I think about Meet the Neighbors and how important it is, it's from my faith tradition. A friend of mine told this story. I dreamt and I died and I went to heaven. And the pearly gates are right in front of me, and St. Peter is standing here. And he has his list, and he looks, and my name is on it. And the gates of heaven open, and I am filled with complete, overwhelming joy as I see all of heaven's majesty lay before me. And just as I step right through that gate, something catches my eye. And I look back and I see some people that I knew in my life. A Buddhist friend, a drug addict, a Hindu. And I look at Peter and I think, what's up with them? And Peter tells me, you know the rules. I look back at divine, eternal salvation, and I look back at my friends, and I think, you know what? I'm okay out here. And a smile breaks over Peter's face. So at last you get it. I think it's so important to forsake everything that we live in our lives for others. I think that that's what I'm called to do as a Christian. I'm also called to do that as an American. Because if civil liberties of my neighbors are violated, then my civil liberties are violated too. And that is not the Spokane that I know. That is not the region that I know. I think we've been seeing a diaspora of hate after the amazing work that has been done in the Idaho Panhandle to break up white supremacist enclaves. Some of that's coming to our town. And the question is, what are we going to do about that? Does anybody have that small voice that says, yeah, you should do something about it? So in closing, I don't know if this is going to make an impact. But I can tell you is thousands of people have come together to meet their neighbors. And for me, at the very least, we can look at tomorrow and we'll be holding hands and face that day, maybe together. Thank you.